Okay, hi everybody. Raimond Volpe here from Dynamo Selling, and today I want to talk to you about a topic that seems to be playing over and over and over again. It's in relation to Gen Z and how to effectively communicate and interact with the Gen Zs. How do we invest in the future generation, which they are at this stage? How do we enable ourselves to be able to communicate with this generation, this highly skilled generation that have some flaws around communication? We're going to look at that today. The sort of things that we want to talk about today is how do we tailor Generation Z communication? How do we engage with them, basically? How do we influence Generation Z? How do we influence their decisions? How do they become influential in their decision making? How do we educate and communicate with Generation Z? You've got the Generation Zs, the Millennials, the Generation Xs, and the Boomers going back in order. But if we're starting at Gen Z, this is the future in terms of our workforce and our future in our workforce. How do we nurture the Generation Z entrepreneurs and the leaders of tomorrow? How do we include communication for Gen Z? The multimedia communication around Generation Z, the video technology, that multimedia component is paramount today. So we need to understand this, and we just have to put all this together so we learn how to foster the relationships with Generation Z. So Gen Z are born between 1997 and 2012. They're the newest group to enter the workforce. So they're tech savvy. That's beyond a doubt. They're born into this world. When they come into this world, they've learned to adopt the workflows and efficiencies of technology and how to adapt with that. They value diversity. They contribute to more inclusive, harmonious workplaces. So they don't like workplaces that are full of issues. They like a harmonious workplace. They're entrepreneurial. These are big benefits of the Gen Zs. They're definitely entrepreneurial. The problem with them being entrepreneurial, sometimes there's a disparagement between the amount of hard work you've got to put in. So they're wanting to become entrepreneurs. They are the future workforce. They care about sustainability. So being able to offer reputation, sustainable goals is paramount to them. Being adaptive and resilient. They need guidance through the company that needs to be smooth, even at difficult times. So it's that fine line between where they're being adaptive and resilient in the good times and the hard times. In the hard times, they find it difficult to be adaptive and resilient. They've been brought into a world where they've been brought in with, I don't have a phone on me right now, but a phone. And they're brought in, the first thing they look at is a phone. So they don't get to see people's faces. They don't get to see people's human behavior. They don't look at expressions. They're looking at phones. They're looking at iPods. They're looking at computers. All these things that they're looking at aren't giving them a realistic view of the world. Health's important to them. So, in terms of job satisfaction, if they're getting unhealthy, that's not what they want. So these are the sort of things that we need to take into consideration. So when you're tackling a Gen Z, what are the challenges? The challenges in adapting to Gen Z's rapid information processing and digital interaction is paramount. So, they've got this digital upbringing, and it contrasts with the older generations or the more mature generations. So what happens is they're very quick at doing things, and you've got another generation a little bit slower at doing things when it comes to technology. But when you bring the two together, they can hit heads sometimes, because the older generation will prefer to pick up the phone and ring somebody and ring them again and ring them again and maybe even knock on their door. Whereas the new generation, the Gen Z, will send them a message and then they'll send them a follow-up message. If they don't come back, they'll move on to something else. So this is the area of concern that we have, especially in the sales world. When you're trying to communicate, it's difficult for someone to be able to follow up with a message, and it's very easy to switch your phone off when you've got 8 to 10 different messages. It's very difficult to switch your phone off when you've got somebody that continually rings you or knocks on your door. So, that's where the resilience and the adaptivity can come into placement, but it doesn't really go into momentum. So they like interactive training, they like engaging training. They don't like the old death by PowerPoint, death by slide, death by workbook, death by homework. They like different stuff. They like to go into an educational environment where someone comes out wearing something crazy, or someone comes out doing something crazy, or someone comes out and does something totally out of the norm. That's what they want. It's a bit like YouTube. You go onto YouTube, you watch the same thing over and over and over again, you'll never watch that type of video again. They are the same with their training. They don't want the same thing. They like open forums. They like to be able to be seen, heard, and deliver a message. So this is how we need to understand how to tackle the Gen Zs. But when I say tackle, that tackle is more like embracing. We don't want to think of it as tackling. We want to utilize it as an embracing tackle.